Ames here for Boxing News TV. Joining me now is Jon Pegg. Jon, got a number of fighters on this bill. Just talk me to the top of the bill. A great opportunity for Sam Eggington, really, against Carlos Molina, fighting for the WBC silver middleweight title. How did the fight come about?
Basically, you know, Sam has had a bit of a rollercoaster career. He's had some absolutely massive wins. But being a guy who's prepared to fight, you know, people say they want to see 50-50 fights. If you take enough 50-50, proper 50-50s, you will have losses, because they're 50-50s for a reason. They're not always 50-50s. So, but Sam genuinely took them, and even some of them are 60-40s, and he had losses. But he didn't let it affect him. He didn't let it affect where he was going. I had total faith. Every time we had a loss, I was like, I'm an old school kind of boxing fan, and in the old days that kind of record was just to get to a Southern Area title, let alone going forward more. So as long as he learnt and as long as he kept his wits about him, and you know, and kept going forward and improving and reaching his physical prime at 27, we always had the plan what was coming. The opportunity come for Channel 5, because obviously, you know, he had some great fights on Sky, one fight of the year, but he gets to the stage where it's kind of like, oh, you know, he's had a tough one. Is he the same as he was? We know he was, because we're in the gym. Channel 5 revitalised him. I told Mick Hennessy about him, and Mick says I was kind of on the narrative that Sam's a tough guy who, you know, he does all right. When I explained a lot of stuff, Mick had a proper good look at him, watched some of his spars, looked things a bit more closely, and he says, I think you're right. He says, I think there's a lot more in the tank, given the proper treatment. Sam don't care, he'll fight anyone anywhere, and nobody can carry on like that without picking losses up. So Mick brought him back against Ashley Thearpain, made him the star of the show, giving that little bit kind of, you're the most important guy here, and Sam seemed to glow with it. You see, you know, he's not a guy who makes a fuss, but when you're in the away corner a few times, you start to feel like the away fighter. And then we was looking round, looking what was up. Mick made a tremendous offer to the European champion, the Spanish guy, turned it down. He went back and made it an even higher offer, turned it down. So we're looking around for that kind of fight. We didn't want to jump in too big because we was developing stuff. And then we saw Molina was looking for a fight, and Molina's ranked in the WBC top 10. The WBC silver was vacant at middle. I says to Sam, do you fancy fighting in the middle? And he was like, let's dieting, happy days. So we took the fight, because Carlos isn't a full middle. You know, I don't think we'd have took the fight with a full middleweight, because Sam's done the weight quite comfortably. He probably could have made light middle if he'd have wanted to this time, just a few tweaks. And he's top of the bill, being watched by a couple of million people on average. And the one thing about Sam Eggington, he's TV friendly. You know, there's not many people, like, value for money wise, who you're paying like wages compared to what they bring excitement wise, who is good value as Sam. The kind of people that give the value Sam does are usually £1 million fighters. And you know, win or lose, and you can see this on the social media, you see the comments, people say, I don't care if he loses every fight he's in, I'll watch Sam Eggington every time he's on. That's promoter's gold. But you know, he's improving. Look, Ashley Thearpain, was he past his best? Of course he was. But he'd only been stopped once on his feet by Adrian Broner. Now, and that was at 36. So it weren't like he was miles away from his prime when that happened. Sam went out and knocked him out. You know, he beat him up and knocked him out. You know, Paulie Malignaggi, people don't realise, the only time Paulie's ever received a full 10 count, not been stopped, because that's a different thing, he's been stopped when the ref calls it off, but an actual counting to 10, look at his box rec, the only time that's happened was against Sam Eggington. Frankie Gavin, an absolute, probably I think the way it went about was Sam's best victory, a world-class amateur, a top-class pro, and Sam done a local derby job on him. Seferino Rodriguez, we've seen a lot of guys winning European titles. Not many people knock out the defending champ. A lot of them are vacant titles, which is fair enough because it's what it is. But Sam took on a 29-1 defending champion and knocked him out cold. He went to Italy to fight a guy who was ranked number 5 in the world with the IBF, 31-2. His 2 losses were narrow losses to the European title. Sam went through him in 2 rounds. He went through him that easily that people didn't really acknowledge it as a good win. If Sam had had an out-and-out war with a 31-2 guy in the middle of Italy, people would have gone, this is a great win. He went through him that easy that people was like, that must have been an easy fight. It wasn't, he just made it look easy. And that's where we're at. We've got an absolute veteran in terms of experience and style. He knows all the tricks. He's had 20-odd TV appearances. He's 27.
Yeah.
When you look at people at 27, they're fighting for their first British title. You know, Anthony Fowler is a massive talent. He's still getting ready to win his first kind of like British or Commonwealth, you know, like a good domestic. I know he's won the other stuff, which is good. But Sam, he's 30 and he's a massive talent. Sam is 27. Look at these guys, what they was doing at 27. And they might be slightly fresher, but none of them have got 36 hard pro fights worth of experience. And people say, oh, he's gonna have a short career fighting like that. And I'm like, he's a 9-year pro. He's already had a longer career than most people. So saying he's going to have a short career, you've already contradicted yourself. He's a 9-year professional. And people say, oh, he's starting to feel it. If Sam was really taking as much punishment as what people perceive, he would have more than 1 knockdown on his record. If he took as much punishment against the level of opposition he's fighting that people think he takes, he wouldn't have a single knockdown over 36 pro fights. He'd have a lot more stick. So you know what, I see him in the gym and we've kept the faith and he's kept the faith as well. He hasn't let himself kind of be put off or wonder, and he's always tried to learn from a loss. And I believe we're seeing that now, and I believe with Mick's guidance, because not many people know boxing better than Mick, and not many people care about boxing as much as Mick. He's a genuine boxing fan who happens to be a TV promoter. A lot of the time it's really good businessmen who are TV promoters, because you have to be a TV, but he's a boxing fan first. And I think we're in a really good position, 27 years old, all the experience in the world. He's got a good solid team that he's been with since day one who believe in him and he believes with them. He just signed with me again for another 3 years as a manager. You know, he's a loyal kid who knows what he wants. And now the final piece of the puzzle is he's got a promoter who genuinely believes he can do something big with him, because Mick doesn't sign people unless he thinks he can do. Because I've seen some of the people he's kind of not signed because he says, I don't know if I can get him to where I want to. So it don't get any better than that for us, you know what I mean? And that's where we're at now. Everything's in place. On Saturday, he's fighting a former world champ who, again, is in his mid-30s, but he's still on a winning run of 8. If Sam does the job I believe he's capable of, who knows what happens next?
What do you expect in terms of the in-ring action? I was speaking to Carlos Molina earlier, and he said, look, when it comes to me fighting Sam, I know what it brings, and I'm looking to implement the sweet science. Are you, from the... Sam mentioned that he doesn't look at fights, he leaves that to your guys. So is that something you expect to end up accounting for?
Well, do you know what? The way we train Sam to fight, his biggest attributes are his aggression, his kind of will to win, his intensity and his fitness. So we train Sam to fight, how he's going to fight. We don't train him to adapt to people. They have to adapt to him. If they adapt to him, we'll find a plan B, because he does do other stuff, but we're not going there to worry about them. We're going there to make them worry about us, and they've got to cope with it. And a lot of people have said this. Paulie Malignaggi, who's one of the best analysts in the business, said, you don't realise how good Sam is at what he does until you're in there with him. He says, when you're in there with him, you're suddenly like, oh, he's not just big and strong, he's also cute. He also knows how to do things, he knows how to cut you off. And everybody who fights Sam, even the guys who beat him, says, I didn't expect that, you know what I mean? And we're just looking to send Sam in and fight on his attributes. We don't make no kind of like, oh, we're going to do this, and then we try. Sam's a brute. Sam's good at what he does. Sam's strong as an ox. Sam likes to fight. When he drags him into a real fight, a lot of people don't want to do that again, and that's why they won't rematch him. Sam does it every time. He's a rare breed that enjoys a real horrible fight. He enjoys it, and that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to, because most people don't enjoy it. Most people are normal people, let's be honest. Normal people don't enjoy what Eggington does, and I don't blame him, but he enjoys it. So let's take him somewhere where they don't want to be, where he enjoys being. Because when he beat Paulie, when he beat Frankie, when he beat Rodriguez, when he beat the Italian, you know, when he beat Thea Payne, he didn't have a boxing match with him. They all wanted to do the sweet science, and they're all very good at doing the sweet science. But Sam says, no, you're going to have a fight with me. Sam learns off Bradley Skeet not to box with a boxer. You know, Bradley was nicking points off him, and Sam was going, well, he's not hurting, so it don't matter. He realised that you can nick rounds without beating someone up. So now we're going out there to do what Sam Eggington does. The other guy is always going to box him, always going to be cute, always going to be smart. Sam's like that. Well, if I can stop you doing that and you have a fight with me, there's a good chance I'm going to win. So we're looking to put Sam's style on him. We're looking for Sam to be what he does best, with a few little tweaks that because he's always learning. You know, he learnt a lot off Ashley Thurpayne, even though he beat him up quite well. He learnt a lot of tricky stuff, and he had to open him up. And that's what we're looking to do. There's no smoke and mirrors with Eggington. It's you go forward, you get him into the best shape possible, you get him mentally ready, you add a few little tweaks when we're learning stuff for sparring, and you let him go and let him enjoy himself. Because when he's enjoying himself, he's not a nice person to be up against.
It's a big opportunity for both fighters, not only with the WBC silver middleweight title on the line, but also from Sam's perspective, Carlos has that ranking.
Yes.
Do you expect to, if Sam were to come out with the victory, to take that ranking, then be looking at the fighters in and around the top 10 after the fight?
That's always what we're doing. We're never looking. Sam will have like the little warm-up fights, but only because he loves to fight regular. You know, I look at Julio Cesar Chavez. He would beat Edwin Rosario, and then he'd be boxing a guy who was 4-2 in Mexico because he just wanted to be in there. And Sam's a bit like that. He's best when he's fighting regular. We will be looking for big fights, but for once I can actually breathe and let the promoter do it, because I'm happy that what Mick's going to come up with is going to be something really good. But yeah, if the right opportunity comes at middle, we will take it. But it's got to be the right opportunity, because he's not a middleweight. He can fight at middleweight because he's big and strong. But if it's the wrong opportunity at middle, because some of these middles are absolute monsters or light heavies really, we're not going to be stupid. If the right opportunity comes at light middle, all the check weighings he's done for this fight, he's been inside the check weighing limit for light middle. You know, like he's been able to be light middle legal if he wanted to be. So I think, you know, and if you've got a world ranking and you drop back down in weight, your world ranking don't disappear. They're going to rank you at the weight below. So he's going to put himself in a good position. But yeah, it's about opportunities. And the one good thing you know about Sam is he won't turn an opportunity down because it's 50-50. You know, he won't say, I want to be a definite winner. If it's 50-50, he'll be like, let's roll the dice. So we will look carefully. But like I say, as a team, I'm happy to be kind of developing Sam more rather than trying to do absolutely everything, because now we're with Mick and we're on Channel 5, I'm quite happy to trust them to deliver what I would deliver if I was making the choices. So that's kind of where we're at.
Does that mean the landscape's open for, it would obviously put Sam, in theory, within the rankings, top 10 maybe with the WBC, but does that leave the door still open for looking at super welterweight, the Cheeseman rematches?
Well, you know, Cheeseman said, you know, Eddie offered it, Eddie put it on Twitter that he offered it, and Ted took another route. I'm not going to knock him for that. Ted's a nice kid, his team are good people. We asked for the rematch. When he didn't want it, we called it out. We didn't take the piss, we didn't call him any names. We called it out and says, we have asked for it. And Ted was like, oh, well, I've got to do it when it's right for me. Okay, fair enough, that's your route. Personally, I don't think anyone wants to fight Sam twice, especially if you've got to win. You know, a lot of people, a lot of good judges who have, you know, come out and said it publicly, had Sam winning. It was a hard, tough fight. We had him winning just. But if I was the other way around, would you want to fight Eggington again? If you got the victory over him? Knowing that, you know, he enjoys that. Most people don't. So I don't blame Ted. The other fights, who knows? But, you know, when you fight on a matchroom show and you're not the matchroom guy, they're good at what they do. They make sure like the things are in your favour. Mick Hennessy's good at what we does, so why are we not going to stay where it's good for us and make the fight from there? And the fact is, Sam doesn't need to chase anyone. When Eggington fights, people tune in for him. Yeah. You know, when a bit like Ted, to be fair, when Ted fights, people tune in for him, and that's why they got Fight of the Year. But Ted got the decision, and he's chose his path, and I understand that completely, and he's a good guy, so I hope he does well. You know, and Sam thought he was going to beat Metcalf, to be honest, because he rates Ted. But yeah, Sam can make his moves with Mick promoting him, and nobody will ever not tune in because Eggington's fighting. Nobody will ever say, well, I've got to see who he's fighting first before I buy a ticket. They're coming for him. He's guaranteed excitement. So, you know, we're in a good position like that. We can kind of make our own route. We've never worried about rematches. Bradley Skeet got the decision over Sam, was a bit too experienced at the time. Sam was 21, Bradley was 27, the age Sam is now. We never chased the rematch. We showed respect and says, Bradley got the decision. We made our own route. Within 12 months, we was ahead of Bradley. Bradley was still defending the British title. Sam was the European champion. The guy who got the win was actually calling Sam out for his title. So you don't need to chase rematches. If they come, they come. If they don't, get the wins that make you a good fighter. Don't be obsessed by somebody else, because then they've got the power over you, that they're holding something you want and you've got to dance to their tune. Go past them, and then suddenly they've got to ask you. That's how we look at it. It might be right, it might be wrong, but so far, it's worked for a kid who wasn't, like the guy said on the stage earlier, Sam was not expected to win a Midlands title. He was not expected to last 12 months. He's been on TV for 8 years now. He first fought on Sky TV in 2013. See if you can find anybody else who was fighting on Sky TV in 2013 still on TV now. That's a pretty good career, isn't it? You know what I mean? He's still on TV, top of the bill, 8 years later. Go to 2013, look at the TV schedules, see if anyone's still doing it. They're either retired or not so far past the best, they're not on there. He's still topping the bill on TV. So you don't have to chase rematches, you don't have to look for guys to make you. If you're an exciting fighter who's fearless and willing to fight, you're the attraction. When you have a fight, people want to come to it, and Sam has put himself in that position, I believe.
A few more fighters I want to talk to you about that you're involved with on this bill. I want to talk about Shaq and Peterson, who's in. It's a bit of a crossroads fight in a sense, because both fighters are coming off of a loss. And neither fight can really afford a loss.
No, it's a tough fight. Jermaine Springer's a good fighter, but we got Shaq back in there. My partner in our gym, Paul Coonahan, is Shaq's main coach, because the way we work in our gym, we work as a team, so we all work with the fighter, but they all have one guy who does does a bit more with them, and he's their man. And Paul's Shaq's main guy. And it was like, well, he was winning on the scorecards. He got clipped and he got stopped at the high level. That's what happens. But he was winning on the scorecards. He wouldn't get outclassed or beaten the first round. So how far back do we go? Do we go back to fighting guaranteed wins or you tough journeymans? Why? He was in front going into the 9th round against a world-class guy in Craig Richards. He got clipped and he got beat. It can happen to anyone. So we don't go straight into the title fight we would have been in, because that's a bit daft. But you can't go too far back, because you got to believe that your fighter is good enough. So Jermaine Springer, who has had some amazing amateur wins and who is a good, ambitious fighter, is where we looked and thought, well, if we can beat Jermaine, we are where we was, and we move back into title contention. If we can't beat him, what's going to beat, beating 5 or 6 guys who aren't very good, going to achieve anyway? So that's what we looked at, and that's how we make our fighters fight. Shaq's ready to go. He's ready to get back in there and title fight if he does what he's capable of in this fight, and hopefully he's learned. Because the only frustrating thing was where he got caught and stopped was something that Paul had really warned him about, and said, you got to stop doing that, you got to stop doing it. Practiced on it, kind of got rid of it, he'd show it again. And then in the biggest fight of his career, he makes a mistake that your trainer's been telling you about. If it was something that we all went, oh man, never seen that before, or Craig done something we didn't expect, we'd have been like, but we was like, oh man, that was the mistake that we've been trying to get rid of. But sometimes the amount of training can't get rid of a mistake, but when it actually hits you on the chin and takes your unbeaten record, lessons are learned, hopefully. And if the lessons are learned, Shaq's a very young 31. Look at him, he doesn't look past 25, does he? So hopefully Shaq is going to do his job, get himself back to that British title winning kind of form, and be ready to go straight back into that level. We're not hanging around with 5 or 6 fights as confidence builders. You was winning on the cards against Craig Richards. Craig Richards is world class. As long as you can get this win back here, that's enough confidence. We're back in there. And that's the plan with Shaq, and that's why we took a a more difficult fight than some people would usually take against someone like Jermaine Springer.
Yeah, so that fight with Craig Richards, I mean, he went on to fight Dimitri Bivol and contend very well against
and give himself, done himself proud, to be honest.
Doubly disappointing in a sense, because after that title fight, which Shaq lost, he went up to world level.
Yeah.
In a sense, that could have been.
Do you know what? I'm honestly, from working with a lot of lads and being on the hard end of a lot of stuff, I'm never a could have been. I'm very positive. You know what I mean? I'm like, perhaps if you'd have fought Bivol, you'd have broke your hand that bad that you could never box again. So don't worry about what could have been. Let's worry about what you might have avoided. Work towards what you can win. You know, don't look at other guys. You never see anyone winning a race looking at the other runners. The people who win races are the ones who look at the finish line. So our guys are looking at the finish line. So yeah, Craig did great. The only thing I looked at was it actually made Shaq look good in a positive way, that he was in front on the cards, he was giving Craig a hell of a fight, and then Craig done that with a real world-class top guy. So that makes Shaq look good for me. That shows that he's above British level, really. He won the British title, so he's British level, but I think he can push past it by seriously contending with world-class guys. But yeah, it's no good worrying about what if, because what if he'd have beat Craig and then the Bivol fight didn't get offered, because I think that was through the connections with Matchroom. So Mick might not have been able to offer that certain fight and we'd have been fighting somebody else. So no, we don't worry about what if, we worry about what we've got and where we're going and who's next, basically.
A couple of the fighters I want to talk to you about on the bill. They're in different fights, but I want to talk to you about them at the same time. River Wilson-Ben and Idris Berber, who both had a bit of interaction.
Yeah, they've been going on for a while.
During the press conference. Talk to me about those two talents and how likely do you think it is we could see them maybe fighting?
I think we will see them fighting. You know, they're building up a natural rivalry, because this hasn't come up from any of us. They just started having a little snipe at each other. They've literally had the same amount of fights. Idris is a bit more flamboyant. River has performed at a higher level at the moment. They're both local. What's not to love? I don't encourage that kind of stuff, but I don't discourage it either, because if 3 or 4 fights were on the same shows and it builds and builds and builds, and those two lads earn themselves a career best payday, that's what it's all about, isn't it? So, you know, River's a good fighter. He can punch with the right hand quite well, and he's very fit, very, very fit. Idris is a bit of a showman who's strong to the body and athletic. He's not like cardio fit as River, but he's got his own kind of, you know, like he's like an athletic fitness. So I think it'd be a good fight. The only trouble is, I would have to, because if my guys ever fight, I won't go in either corner. I don't think it's fair, because I always say to them, I'll be working with you both afterwards. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. And the loser, I've got to find you a route back, as I've done many times. If I've been in the other guy's corner, the loser's kind of looking at me as if to say, well, was you the one that made the difference? So, you know, when Casey Benjamin fought Ben Fields, Casey's in my gym, and he's a good, like, you know, I'll pick him up to go to the gym, but I work closely with Ben, I manage him, and I'm in his corner sometimes, so I had to sit in the neutral corner, and it's happened lots of times. So if River and Idris fought, I would be in the neutral corner. I wouldn't be cheering for either. I would want the best man to win. I'd enjoy the build-up, because the build-up would be crazy, I guarantee you. And I think it's got to. I think it will definitely happen, because they're both characters in their own ways. They're both performing, and Mick's promoting them both. So when it happens, I'll enjoy it as a fight fan, and I will help whoever loses afterwards to. You know, the good thing about having Sam Eggington as your gym is you say, don't worry about a loss. Look what this kid's doing. Look what he's done. It's a nice example to have, and I will push the career forward of the winner. You know what I mean? And so I'll just look forward to that, and I think it will happen. And I think the build-up will be as good as the fight. I think the build-up's going to happen over the next 4 or 5 shows. I think every time that's going to get a bit worse, until finally people are going to go, Mick, you've got to put it on. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, who doesn't like a local derby with a good guy and a bad guy, which we've kind of got, you know what I mean? So although Idris was very nice today, I kind of threw everyone. So perhaps Scott Welsh is making him not quite be the bad guy that he plays sometimes. But yeah, no, as a manager, I don't want them to fight each other, but as a fight fan, I do. So if it keeps going the way it does, I won't encourage it, but I won't discourage it. And when it happens, I'll enjoy it.
It seemed like a quite mature decision actually from Idris's point of view. He said he had some distractions in Birmingham, so he took himself out of those distractions, moved down to...
How can he not have distractions?
Yeah.
Have you seen his social media?
Yeah.
And Birmingham's where, you know, Idris he's kind of this social media guy now, but he's grew up with people. And when you grow up with people who knew you at school, and you're suddenly on reality shows and playing this outrageous role, which he plays fucking great because he's a bit of a character, people who knew you from school are like, excuse my French, oh, I don't like that prick. And they start being nasty about it and stuff like that. Idris is just being his own self. He's just making his own way. So I think going down to a place where nobody knows him personally and he can be what he wants to be and move forward and be this outrageous character but also a good fighter, I think he'll grow. I think in Birmingham, he's still got to be the people that he grew up with. And that's not the character that he's becoming a good boxer. So I think it's a good decision, you know, and Scott Welsh don't stand for anything. He's a good man to have around you. You ain't missing no runs with him. So yeah, I think it's a good decision for him.
John, I just want to get your thoughts on some wider things in the boxing scene, and that being the fallout between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. We're expecting to see that fight. It now seems that we're not going to see that fight. Just a reaction to not getting the undisputed clash, I suppose, next.
Do you know what? I'm kind of bored of it. I'm a bit bored of it. It's like when Mayweather fought Pacquiao. By the time I actually fought, I'm a fight fan first. And by the time I fought, I was like, who cares? And I'm kind of getting that stage now. It's, you know, if it was a soap opera, people would be shouting, just kiss him, you know what I mean? It's like, we've had too many cliffhangers, you know what I mean? It's, fight or don't. But I know who I think would win. I know who I want to win for boxing. Perhaps when it's finally doing the ring walk, I'll be excited again. At the moment, I'm not. It's a bit too dramatic. It's a bit too... It's, you know, if it was a film, you'd say, oh, you've gone over the top here. We've just had another cliffhanger where the arbitration has ruined the fight. Oh, piss off. You know what I mean? So when it happens, I'll be excited as anyone. And I'll be rooting for one, maybe another, I'm not sure. But at the moment, I'm bored of it. Like, maybe the Pacquiao, the biggest fight ever. By the time they dragged it out, I was sitting there going, oh, God. And then the fight weren't very good. Seems to me when you drag it out so long and there's so much pressure, the fight sometimes isn't as good as it should be. I hope that don't happen here, but, you know.
John, let's leave that there. I'm just about to do but I'll just leave the final word with you on this card coming up at the weekend.
Watch it. It's free. You've got some great fights on because I made the matches. You've got some great prospects coming through. And you've got the Midlands Mexican against a real Mexican. What more do you want? Thank you for the interview.